Part 48. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuan-Chi. Chapter 472. While speaking, Yejuju released Hela's body from the sky shuttle. Only then did Odin's expression change slightly, no longer looking so indifferent. Looking at Hela's body lying quietly on the ground like sleeping, Odin said to Yejuju, "Thank you very much, young man, I will give you the eternal fire I promised you." After that, Odin said to the guards who had been guarding him, "Take this young relative to my treasure house and let him take the eternal fire." "That's it?" After that, Odin waved his hand to signal everyone to go out, and he began to fight tremblingly. Slowly walked down the throne step by step and walked towards Hela's body. Knowing that Odin was going to start mourning his daughter, everyone tactfully withdrew. Even Yejuju, who wanted to ask why Thor was not seen, did not ask honestly. "I think Thor is not seen here, he must have been assigned by Odin to the dwarf planet Nidavi to build his new weapon. I think if nothing unexpected happens, Thor's new weapon is still the Stormbreaker. After all, that thing really fits Thor's image." Entering Odin's treasury again, Yejuju no longer has the same surprise as when he first came here. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. After all, as someone who has experienced a high-level world like devouring the stars, his vision is no longer so shallow. The so-called treasures in Odin's treasury are really not good enough compared to those real genius treasures in devouring the stars. Of course, except for the 6 infinity gems. In fact, strictly speaking, the 6 infinity gems do not belong to the 9 realms, but are the product of the Big Bang. Strictly speaking, their level has reached the level of those treasures in devouring the stars. Let alone other things, even the so-called spaceships and battleships in this world are not as smart and fast as the King-class fighter planes he brought back from that world. He came to the brazier where the eternal fire was stored and saw the flames burning all year round in the brazier. The skull-like eternal fire mask. Yejuju was also in trouble for a while. This is the artifact of the Marvel world. With his current physical strength, can he pick it up directly? Odin's guards on the side, looking at Yejuju with his back to him, were mocking Yejuju's presumption in their hearts. What is the eternal fire? It is the artifact of the living flame giant. Is it so easy to touch? Even their god king, the great Odin, did not dare to touch the eternal fire directly with his hands. And this mortal, still arrogantly wanted to take the eternal fire for himself. It was really, I don't know how to write the word death. At this moment, Yejuju's hand was suddenly covered with a thick layer of ice. He just stretched his hand wrapped in ice into the fire pan and quickly picked up the skull mask of the eternal fire. This scene shocked the guards, and he just watched Yejuju picked up the mask without any injury, and the mask disappeared in front of him the next second. What's going on? The guards' faces were full of confusion. They really couldn't understand why the eternal fire didn't burn Yejuju's palm. Why did the eternal fire disappear again afterwards? In fact, Yejuju also knew that wrapping his right hand with the power of ice could temporarily block the burning of the flame under the prompt of the system. He could calmly pick up the skull mask of the eternal fire and put the eternal fire into the space before the power of ice and fire offset each other. As soon as the eternal fire entered the space, the system used the universal converter to absorb the flame power and turned it into Yejuju's energy and flame power. What the eternal fire gave Yejuju was that his energy instantly increased by 1,000 points, which made Yejuju's energy value break through 20,000 points. Although these 1,000 points are really dispensable for Yejuju now. But the most important thing is that the system reminds him that he now not only has the power of ice and mental power, but also the power of fire. Finally, I can have both ice and fire. Yejuju thought proudly. If the environment here is not suitable, he really wants to release the power of fire to see how powerful this fire is. Turning back and seeing his personal guard staring at him in amazement, Yejuju smiled and ignored him and went straight out of Odin's treasure house. Thinking to himself, after going back to see Odin, I will go back to Earth. Let Tony and Banner continue to study the Sky Shuttle as soon as possible, so that they can do something, and avoid them from creating Ultron to make trouble for themselves. When I saw Odin again, he had recovered as usual. There was no Hela's body in the temple. I think it was properly preserved by Odin. When Odin saw that Yejuju did not walk into the temple with loss, he was immediately confused. In his opinion, no matter how powerful Yejuju was, he could not take the eternal fire away with his bare hands. This is also the reason why Odin could be so straightforward and promised to give Yejuju the eternal fire. I promised to give it to you, you can't blame me for breaking my promise if you can't take it away, right? You know, unlike the ice box, the power of ice is sealed in the ice box. As long as it is not opened, even if it is not a frost giant, it will not be frozen by the power of ice and become an ice sculpture. But the eternal fire is different, it is directly exposed to the outside. Not to mention a mortal, even if he is the king of gods, he can't even think of picking up the eternal fire with his bare hands without special protection. But why didn't Yejuju look disappointed and annoyed? Did he use some means to get it? But that's not right. He knew that the ice box was obtained by Yejuju, but it was impossible to take away the eternal fire with the ice box alone, right? Thinking of this, Odin looked at the guard who followed him in with a lost soul, and the guard just happened to look at him. When he saw the guard nodding to him with a wry smile and a look of seeing a ghost, Odin immediately understood. The eternal fire has been taken by this mortal. This made Odin look up to Yejuju again, and he couldn't help but feel a little worried. Worried that the ally he found for his son was a little too powerful. After his death, can his son get along with him happily? Yejuju ignored Odin's puzzled face and said directly, "Your Majesty, the things here are also dealt with, is there anything else? If nothing, I will go back to Earth. After all, there are still a lot of things waiting for me to deal with there." "Ah, oh. Are you leaving now?" Hearing this, Odin woke up, paused, and then continued. "Don't worry, young man, come, sit down, I have something to talk to you about." Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuanchi. Chapter 473. After saying that, Odin signaled his guards to go out, raised his hand to ask Yejuju to sit down, and then said slowly, "People in the world think that God is superior, but in fact God also has a lot of helplessness. For example, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Although our lifespan is much longer than that of ordinary people, it also has a limit. I've lived almost 5,000 years, plus long-term restrictions on Hela. It took a lot of my energy. I just about to die. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow circled M. At this point, the lonely look in Odin's one eye made Yejuju feel a little unbearable, but he didn't interrupt him, knowing that he still had something to say later. Sure enough, Odin sighed and continued. I have spent thousands of years bringing peace to the 9 realms temporarily, but those races have not settled down because of this. They are waiting for the day I die. After I die, they will start the war again, when the time comes. Midgard, your Earth, will not be spared." At this point, Odin paused deliberately, wanting to see Yejuju's reaction. Yejuju naturally knows this. Thanos is a living example, and of course there is that race that even Odin dare not name Eternals and Celestials. However, for now, Yejuju has nothing to do with these two races. Because even if the Celestial clan comes out, it will be almost several years later. Even Yejuju himself doesn't know how high his strength will be by then. But what is certain is that by then, he will be able to easily destroy the Celestial clan. Now that he knew this, Yejuju certainly would not show any fear, and stared at Odin, waiting for him to continue. Seeing that Yejuju did not do what he thought, Odin couldn't help but secretly cursed little fox, but he did not blame Yejuju for not cooperating with him, but continued. My two sons, you know them too. I am actually not worried about Loki at all, his scheming ability allows him to live well. And what I'm most worried about is Thor, why he is so reckless. Having said this, Odin stopped again and looked at Yejuju. Yejuju rolled his eyes and said in his heart, you old guys who have lived for thousands of years, don't you know what to say? Don't you just want me to take care of Thor more after you die? As for that. However, having just taken the benefits from Odin, Yejuju naturally had to cooperate with the old guy and said, you just know? Isn't Thor just a fool? Expression. Seeing Yejuju like this, Odin nodded with satisfaction before continuing. Young man, I would like to make a permanent alliance with you on behalf of Asgard. After my death, once Thor encounters a problem, it's time to ask for your help for my sake. How about helping him? At this point, he seemed to know that his bargaining chips were not enough, so he continued. Of course, once Midelt encounters difficulties, Asgard will fully help him. What do you think? Hearing this, Yejuju naturally believed that Odin had not deceived him. After all, this is what the god of thunder did in the play. There's nothing wrong with agreeing to this, it's just a matter of convenience. Although he didn't know the specific time when Thanos invaded Asgard, as long as Thor asked for help from him, Yejuju naturally didn't mind solving Thanos, the purple sweet potato, on Asgard. Thinking of this, Yejuju nodded heavily and agreed. Of course, I promise you. Once Thor asks me for help, I will definitely come to his rescue. That's it? Hearing this, Odin also became happy. One-eyed glanced at Yejuju with satisfaction. He seemed to be in much better spirits at this time. Now that the goals of both parties have been achieved, Yejuju will not stay in Asgard for a long time. He wants to find a place to study the newly obtained power of fire. After bidding farewell to Odin, Yejuju was teleported back to Earth by Heimdall. As soon as he returned to Earth, he was not in a hurry to see Tony and Banner. Instead, he put on his armor and found an uninhabited Gobi desert to land, and then carefully examined his power of fire. Just like when he first obtained the power of ice, when Yejuju used his abilities without thinking, it was as if they didn't exist. And when Yejuju wants to use this ability, the ability will quickly be converted into the power of ice or fire, or even mental power. At this time, Yejuju's first attempt was the conventional power of super-controlling flames. With a thought, the ability was transformed into the power of flames, and the hurrah started to burn on the palms of Yejuju's hands. The color of this flame is very similar to the dark red of ordinary flames, and it doesn't look surprising at all. And Yejuju knew that the temperature of ordinary flames was only 600 degrees. But now that he has the eternal fire, he has no sense of the temperature of the flame, so he has to use other things to test the temperature of the flame and how high it is. First, he found a piece of rotten wood and brought the flame closer. As soon as it got close, the rotten wood quickly burned, and was burned to ashes by the flames in just a moment. This made Yejuju smack his lips. He didn't expect that the temperature of the eternal fire would be so high. You know, even if wood is burned in a high-temperature furnace, it takes a process and time to burn out. Unexpectedly, under the eternal fire, it was like paper, burning into Huijin quickly. You can imagine how high the temperature of the eternal fire is. Then, Yejuju tried to burn various things: stone, metal, even the metals and titanium alloys with the highest melting points were basically melted in the blink of an eye under the eternal fire. After trying, Yejuju was very satisfied with the ability of the eternal fire. Then, Yejuju tried to open the flame field. Sitting cross-legged on the desert mountain in the Gobi Desert, Yejuju closed his eyes and began to feel the fire element in the air. I have to say that the Marvel world is really weird, with everything. There are mutants, technology freaks, intelligent life, and even magic elements. Yejuju easily felt the fire elements in the air, and quickly established a connection with them. It took some time to comprehend the law of fire. Half an hour later, an orange-red light ball with a radius of 10 meters appeared around Yejuju, surrounding him completely. "It's done." Yejuju opened his eyes in surprise and stood up. In the orange-red flame field, Yejuju spread his palms and moved his mind. A burning fireball the size of a ping-pong ball appeared in his hands. Then, the fireball kept changing in size according to Yejuju's mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuan-Chi. Chapter 474. After adapting to the power of controlling flames, Yejuju increased the output of energy, and suddenly, in the entire flame domain, countless fireballs appeared in the air, flying all over the sky with Yejuju's mind. Even in the domain, a sea of fire can appear at any position according to Yejuju's mind. The temperature of the sea of fire is also controlled by Yejuju. Just from the color of the flame, you can see how high the temperature of the flame is. Dark red, deep red, orange, pure orange, golden orange, white, and even the last purple. To be honest, Yejuju is very satisfied with the flame domain. But he is still greedy and wants to combine the two domains to perform together, turning it into a real world of ice and fire. This process is not so easy. At the beginning, Yejuju always couldn't find the key points. Either it was impossible to use two domains at the same time, or the two domains just emerged and devoured each other, offsetting and repelling each other. Even the repelling force almost caused Yejuju to suffer internal injuries, let alone the ice and fire. Although he couldn't find the key, Yejuju didn't give up and kept trying, hoping to find a solution. Half a day later, Yejuju sat down on the ground dejectedly and had to rest because he was too tired. While resting, Yejuju couldn't help thinking, is it impossible to let ice and fire coexist? But he didn't know that it was impossible for ordinary people to have the two mutually repelling attribute powers of ice and fire at the same time. The reason why he could have the power of ice and fire at the same time was because of the existence of the system, the existence of the universal furnace's heaven-defying and energy value, which allowed him to have the power of two attributes at the same time. And wanting to use the power of two attributes at the same time is not something that ordinary people can do. Yejuju was thinking about a solution in distress. Countless ideas in his mind were turning rapidly in his mind, and he denied them one by one. Suddenly, Yejuju thought of a plot that appeared in many novels. In novels, the protagonist can often get two opposite skills and attribute abilities. And the protagonist often uses the principle of Chinese Tai Chi Yin and Yang, and finally combines the two mutually exclusive abilities together to become extremely powerful skills and abilities. Thinking of this, Yejuju seemed to have found a way, but he was a little distressed. What should he do to apply the principle of Tai Chi to himself? There was no way. Although Yejuju had traveled through several worlds, they were all science fiction doomsday worlds. He had never come into contact with the Chinese martial arts world and had not learned the principles of using the world in his body. Even in the world of devouring stars, he had not come into contact with similar principles. What can I do? Yejuju couldn't help scratching his scalp in distress. At the same time, what Yejuju didn't know was, Tony and Banner, two crazy researchers, couldn't find anything to do in the past few days after Yejuju left, so they returned to the laboratory and continued to study the Infinity Stones on the Mind Scepter. Maybe it was fate. Even though Yejuju intervened in this matter, what was supposed to happen still happened. The two found a powerful consciousness that surpassed Jarvis in the Mind Stone. Although they took measures in time, Ultron was stillborn. As expected, Ultron invaded the body of one of the robots made by Tony and escaped without Tony noticing. However, Tony and Banner were using the Mind Stone to create new life in full swing, which was later the Vision in the Avengers. After thinking for a long time, Yejuju had no idea. He could only put his hope on the system and asked for help. System, I want to use the power of ice and fire at the same time. Do you have any way? System. Host, you are really stupid. With the universal furnace, you can use the power of two attributes at the same time as long as you want. Being despised by the system, Yejuju had a black line on his forehead. He certainly knew that through space, he could release the power of ice and fire with his left and right hands. He had already experimented with this. But the power? It can't be said to be bad, but very bad. Using the power of ice and fire with both hands at the same time is just normal power, and what he wants is to use the two fields of ice and fire at the same time, and it would be best if they can be integrated. Taking a deep breath, Yejuju suppressed the urge to curse the system, and continued. System, you know that I can release the power of the two domains of ice and fire, right? Well, is it possible that the two domains of ice and fire can be used at the same time, or even merged into a new domain? Is this possible? Theoretically, it is impossible. After all, the two attributes are mutually exclusive. If they are used at the same time, either they cannot be used, or they will devour and repel each other, or even conflict between the two energies, causing explosions or injuring the host. Hey! I know that too. But, system, do you know that China has a theory of Tai Chi Yin and Yang? I don't know. Can the host explain it in detail? Knowing that the system definitely doesn't know this advanced theory from China, Yejuju patiently explained to the system. The so-called Tai Chi Yin-Yang is a theory that the ancient Chinese sages studied by using the mutual generation and mutual restraint of things, the positive and negative sides, to make two opposite things perfectly merge together. The main representatives are the yin and yang sides. Yin-Yang, system, you should understand, right? Well, please continue. Obviously, this theory, which is very awesome to it, has aroused the interest of the system. Yejuju did not waste time, and while drawing the pattern of Tai Chi Yin-Yang Bagua on the ground, he explained to the system the principle of the mutual generation, mutual restraint and mutual fusion of Tai Chi Yin-Yang. Of course, Yejuju only has a partial understanding of this profound theory. Most of it comes from what he has seen and heard in movies, TV shows and novels, but it is enough to fool the system. After talking for more than half an hour, Yejuju was dry-mouthed, and the system understood a general idea. But it could not immediately give Yejuju a solution, but told Yejuju to wait a while, and the system was thinking of a solution. Seeing that the system could not do anything for a while, Yejuju chatted with Hung Hao out of boredom. Red Queen, do you know the Chinese Tai Chi Yin-Yang theory? Sir, there are theories about this in my database. Theory. Do you need it? Oh, I didn't expect you to have something about this. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 475. Yes, sir. You know, I am the most advanced artificial intelligence in the world I live in, and the knowledge I store covers a wide range. The Chinese Tai Chi Yin-Yang theory is naturally included. Hearing this, Yejuju said desperately. Then can you help me solve the problem that the two fields of ice and fire cannot be used at the same time, or even merged with each other? I'm sorry, sir. Regarding this theory, I can't fully understand it, and give you good suggestions. I can't help you realize the method of using the ice and fire fields at the same time. But I have seen records about this. The characters in those Chinese martial arts and fairy tales all use powerful treasures, or even powerful mental power to merge two opposite skills and abilities together. I think you can also start with mental power, and maybe there will be unexpected gains. Hearing the words of the Queen of Red, Yejuju felt as if he had suddenly realized something, and said to himself, yes. Why didn't I think of using mental power as a medium to perfectly blend the power of ice and fire? Thinking of this, Yejuju was a little troubled again. How can we use mental power to specifically display the field of the power of ice and fire to achieve the effect of ice and fire? After thinking for a long time, Yejuju suddenly realized that he had overlooked the most core thing of the Tai Chi Yin-Yang thought, that is, the Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram. Thinking of the Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram, Yejuju began to use mental power to draw the Tai Chi pattern in the air. Drawing the pattern is actually simple, but it is a bit difficult to fill it with the power of ice and fire. Use the power of ice and fire as a trigger to fill it into the two dots in the Tai Chi diagram, as the beginning of the cathode and the yang, and the anode and the yin. This process consumed a lot of Yejuju's time and mental power. At this time, it depends on whether Yejuju's mental power is strong. Think about it. Yejuju can be said to be multitasking at this time, that is, he has to use his mental power to maintain the Tai Chi diagram, and he has to use his mental power to control the two domain forces, entering the yin and yang sides of Tai Chi respectively. This process is not simple at all. Yejuju, who tried it for the first time, almost hurt himself because of the improper transmission of domain force, which caused the Tai Chi diagram to collapse. After repeated attempts, he was very tired, and finally got some experience. Sitting on the ground, taking out food from the space to fill his stomach and resting for a long time, Yejuju then began to try the fusion of the Tai Chi ice and fire domain. That's right. Just when he was resting before, Yejuju had already thought of a name for his future fusion domain, which was called Tai Chi Ice and Fire. Although this name is not very good, it represents a certain obsession in Yejuju's heart. Believe. Those who understand will understand. Who said that before crossing to Marvel, he was a person who had not experienced wind and rain? After experiencing countless failures again, Yejuju finally completed the fusion of Tai Chi ice and fire when he was exhausted to the extreme. Beautiful, stunning, the Tai Chi ice and fire field in front of him was really beautiful. In a field with a radius of 20 meters, there was white ice on one side and red flame on the other side, clearly divided into two sides, rotating at a slow speed. This speed is controllable. As long as Yejuju increases the control of mental power, the two domain forces will rotate quickly. Half ice, half flame, Yejuju believes? No matter who enters the ice and fire field, they will be played to death by the two domain forces with opposite attributes. It's terrifying to think about it. When you think you are in the ice, it suddenly turns into a flame. The extreme freezing suddenly becomes an extreme burning. Tisk tisk, this taste is really not something that ordinary people can bear. Feeling exhausted again, Yejuju had to stop the ice and fire domain and sit on the ground to rest. During the rest, Yejuju was still thinking about the disadvantages of the current ice and fire domain. He didn't know that the vision created by Tony and Banner had changed from a robot to a creature with human emotions. And Ultron had secretly created a large number of robots, ready to use these robots to dominate the Earth and turn the Earth into his kingdom. The first person to find out that something was wrong was no longer Tony and Banner, but Director Lu Dan of S.H.I.E.L.D. After sending a large number of agents and still unable to solve the big trouble of Ultron, Director Lu Dan asked the captain to come forward and contact Tony and Banner and started a big battle with Ultron in the downtown area. The result was not ideal. Although one of Ultron's clones was killed, Ultron could not be really killed. Several people suffered a lot at the hands of Ultron. When they retreated, almost everyone was injured. In addition, as expected, the captain and his team still met Wanda and her brother. Although the two had conflicts with Stark, they stayed in S.H.I.E.L.D. temporarily after a battle. Yejuju tirelessly and repeatedly released the ice and fire domains. As he became more and more proficient in using the power of the ice and fire domains, he gradually accelerated the speed of releasing the domain fusion, and the rapid conversion between the domains also became faster and faster. Unknowingly, Yejuju actually stayed in this wilderness for almost a week. During this week, the captain led Tony and others to track Ultron all over the world, trying to kill it. In the end, Ultron's whereabouts were locked in Sokovia. When the war came, Director Ludan thought for a long time and decided to invite Yejuju to participate in the battle. Although he didn't know where Yejuju was now, Director Ludan still contacted Yejuju by phone. Yejuju, who was getting familiar with the control of the ice and fire field, suddenly received a call from Director Ludan, and had a bad feeling in his heart. After answering the phone, Director Ludan's serious voice came over. "Yeah? Where are you now?" "Lu, oh, Director Fury, don't worry about where I am, what's the matter?" Tony and Dr. Banner created a spiritual consciousness, occupied the robot made by Tony, and is now in Sokovia. It intends to occupy there and make it its base, manufacturing robots in large quantities, and wants to occupy the entire Earth. We must stop it. The captain has taken Tony and others to Sokovia, so, what about you? Are you willing to participate in this battle for all mankind? Hearing this, Yejuju frowned, complaining about Tony and Banner's carelessness in his heart, but the system prompt sounded. Host triggers the world plot mission, Age of Ultron. Stop Ultron from sending Sokovia to the sky, and finally kill Ultron, reward experience 50,000. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 476. Why is the reward so small? After listening to the system's task prompt, Yejuju was a little suspicious, wondering if the system had deliberately deducted his reward. Diamond suit, diamond suit. However, no matter how small the mosquito leg is, it is still meat. Yejuju decided to accept the system task, but he had to get some benefits from Director Ludan. Thinking of this, Yejuju said, "Of course I have to participate in this kind of thing, but..." Hearing that Yejuju agreed to participate in the battle, Fury just breathed a sigh of relief, but when he heard Yejuju's next words, he couldn't help but frowned. To be honest, he didn't like Yejuju very much. Not only because Yejuju was a Chinese American, but also because Yejuju didn't listen to the call at all. He was also unwilling to join the Avengers alliance he formed, and even took away his designated personnel, Tony, so that the strength of the Avengers alliance did not meet his expectations at all. And now he is willing to let Yejuju join the Avengers alliance, which is already a great face for Yejuju. Unexpectedly, Yejuju still put forward conditions at this time. Damn it, not a thing. Director Ludan wanted to curse shit on the phone, but finally held back, and asked in a very unhappy tone. "But what? What do you want?" Haha. "Director, look, don't you have a lot of things in SHIELD that you don't know the use of? For example, those things in warehouse no 084, even you don't know what they are for, right? I want to borrow something from the director after this matter is perfectly resolved. Don't worry, I won't use this thing to do anything that harms humanity. On the contrary, I might use this thing to make the world have another superhero. I don't know. Director, are you willing to believe me?" This time the phone was silent, and Fury asked for a long time. "What is it, can I know its use?" Hearing this, it was Yejuju's turn to be silent this time. He was considering whether he should let Fury know the secret of the obelisk. After thinking for a while, Yejuju decided to tell Fury some of the secrets, so he said, "That thing should be called an obelisk, and its origin should be something left on Earth by the Kree. Its function can only be activated by people with Kree blood. After being activated, it may have a special ability. That's all I know. Now, can the director agree to lend me this thing for a while? Again, believe me, I won't use this thing to do anything that endangers the safety of the Earth." Hearing this, Fury was a little moved to tell the truth. This matter is not bad for S.H.I.E.L.D. On the contrary, if there is one more superhero, as Yejuju said, it is not a bad thing. It must be said that Fury has a big pattern and is not such a petty person. It is not because Yejuju is not a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the people he wants to help are unlikely to become part of the Avengers he will deliberately not agree to Yejuju's request. Even if Yejuju didn't obey his orders, he was still a member of the Earth's Defense Force. And judging from Yejuju's past performance, Yejuju was still trustworthy. Thinking of this, Fury said, "Okay, I agree to your request. But I also have a request. When you use that thing, oh, it's called the obelisk, right? When you use it, one of our people should follow you to make sure that what you say is true. Okay. I promise you. But let's wait until the Sokovia issue is resolved before we proceed. Now. I'm going to Sokovia, see you later, Mr. Director." After saying that, he hung up the phone, put on his armor, stepped on the sky shuttle and flew to Sokovia. At this time, far away in Asgard, Odin was talking to Thor on the edge of a cliff. After a long talk, Odin's figure turned into golden light and disappeared in front of Thor. The moment Odin disappeared, in the universe far away from the Nine Realms, a giant with a height of at least 4 meters and purple skin looked towards the Nine Realms with a sense of something, and laughed out loud and said, "Haha, Odin, Ancient One, are you all dead? Then can I finally go to the Nine Realms to find the remaining 5 Infinity Stones?" As he spoke, Odin raised his hand, and between his huge palms, a gem emitting a strange purple light, appeared. Yes, this is the purple power gem representing power among the 6 Infinity Stones. Obviously, Thanos has already obtained the power gem at this time. And what he meant was that he would start invading the Earth and launching an infinite war. Then, Thanos gave orders to the strange-looking people standing below. "Reorganize the army immediately, and go to Asgard with me in 3 days to start our great cause of eliminating half of the creatures in the universe." Hearing this, the people standing below bowed with extremely serious expressions and said, "Yes, sir." Yejuju's speed is so fast that it can be said that none of the known flying objects on the Earth are as fast as him. It took only half an hour for Yejuju to arrive above Sokovia. At this time, Captain America and others were fighting against the ubiquitous robots. On the side of the bridge in the distance, more troops were evacuating the residents here. Yejuju first released the mechanical flies, hoping that Red Queen could find Ultron through them. In Yejuju's view, it is not enough to catch the thief first, but also to find the bombs and thrusters that Ultron had buried in advance. First, as long as he keeps an eye on it and kills all the robots here, the trouble brought by Ultron this time will be completely solved. Second, the main reason is that Yejuju doesn't want to see the whole city blown up to the sky by Ultron's bombs and thrusters. Unfortunately, Ultron hid too deep, and it was impossible to find the robot that looked different. In the city below, the battle situation was actually not ideal. Even though the captain is a super soldier, Natasha and Barton also have good combat power, plus the transformed Hulk, Tony flying all over the sky as a firefighter, Wanda and her brother, and Vision, who also joined the battle at this time. In fact, facing the dense and endless army of robots, they still seem so powerless. There are battlefields everywhere, and ruins affected by the battle everywhere. Yejuju couldn't stand it anymore and flew down from the sky. The sky shuttle immediately separated 23 blades from it and floated beside Yejuju, approaching a battlefield where the robots seemed to be the most. Unexpectedly, this was the battlefield of Natasha and Barton. Seeing the two surrounded by robots, they looked very embarrassed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 477. After Yejuju used a flying knife to pierce the brain chips of the dozen robots surrounding the two people and kill them all, Yejuju glanced at Natasha and Barton, who looked a little embarrassed and said, "Hey Natasha, you look miserable." "Oh, don't worry, I'm not here to help you." Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Look at me. After teasing Natasha, seeing that Natasha was a little anxious, Yejuju hurriedly stopped her and released all the mechanical pets from the space. And let them follow Natasha to kill those robots, and rescue ordinary people trapped by the robots. Seeing Yejuju releasing so many mechanical creatures, Natasha immediately gave up the idea of teaching Yejuju a lesson. Really? This guy is so inhuman. It didn't matter that her personal strength was ridiculously strong, but the key was that she had so many helpers that she couldn't even think of fighting Yejuju. Not only Natasha, but also Barton. I still remember that when he first met Yejuju, he despised Yejuju and had the desire to fight Yejuju, but now it seems that he is really far behind. So much so that Yejuju had been here for a while, and he had no intention of talking to Yejuju. Yejuju was not in contact with the two of them. After leaving behind a group of mechanical pets, he flew to another place where he was besieged by robots. This is where the Rice team is. Perhaps his star-striped suit was too eye-catching, so there were more robots besieging him than Natasha and Barton. Yejuju joined the battle without hesitation. 23 blades flew and all the robots here were eliminated in just a few dozen seconds. After the battle was over, before Yejuju could speak, Captain Mi said eagerly, "Yeah, it's great that you're here. I don't need your help here, I can handle it. Go help Tony and Vision, they are the place Ultron wants to occupy. There is a detonating device set by Ultron there. Once detonated, the entire city will be sent into the sky, and then like a meteorite falling to the ground, destroying all living things in the area. Go and leave me alone." After saying that, the Mi team left Yejuju behind and rushed towards the besieged civilians. Yejuju glanced helplessly at Team Mi who hurried away, and actually admired Team Mi in his heart. Without him, Team Mi is a very pure person. There is only a distinction between good and evil in his eyes. He never bows to the powerful and does not accept so-called government supervision. It can be seen that he even turned against the Avengers later. There was no time to think too much. Yejuju naturally knew that the detonating device was in a building in the center of the city, so of course he had to go there to guard it. Now that he has decided to protect the city from being sent to heaven, Yejuju will certainly do his best. When they flew near the building, they saw Tony busy in the sky attacking robots on the ground. Vision was suspended at the door of the building, using his fists and energy beams on his forehead to kill the robots that rushed forward. The strange thing is that I didn't see Banner or Wanda brother and sister, and I don't know where the big guy and Wanda brother and sister went. From a distance, Tony saw Yejuju flying towards him, and he couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt in his heart. After all, it was he and Banner who created Ultron. However, Tony is an arrogant person, and naturally he will not admit his mistakes face to face, but he also does not want the city to be destroyed because of his own fault, so while blasting the robot with the impact beam from his palm, he shouted to Yejuju, "Hey, yeah, my brother, you are finally here, come and help us kill all these damn robots, otherwise the city will be in danger." Hearing this, Yejuju curled his lips and complained in his heart. "It's not just you and Banner who caused this problem. We have to wipe your butts. It's really your fault." That's what he thought in his heart, but Yejuju still flew close to the ground honestly. The 23 blades of the Dungeon shuttle crossed across the air very quickly, piercing the heads of all the more than 20 robots that surrounded him. Seeing that Yejuju's weapon called Dungeonshuo was so powerful, Tony couldn't help but feel a little sour. Fortunately, although he was envious, he had no other thoughts. He has his pride, isn't he? He is the most powerful mechanical inventor, isn't he? Besides, if my brother is great, isn't he also great in disguise? But he couldn't fall behind. He couldn't kill fewer robots than his brothers. Thinking of this, Tony's hand movements became faster and faster, and the impact of the palm of his hand became faster and faster than the speed of light, killing the robots on the ground. In a short while, the three of them cleared all the robots on the ground and were about to take a breather. In the distant streets, there were a large number of densely packed robots surrounding the three of them. Seeing so many robots rushing towards the three of them, Yejuju felt very puzzled. I don't understand where Ultron came up with so many robots. It seems that there are so many robots that he can't kill them all. Doesn't it take time or resources to build these robots? Is this too bug? He didn't know that when he was still comprehending the realm of ice and fire, Ultron had tried once to snatch Vision's body. However, its plan was destroyed by Captain Me and Tony and others. In order to get what it wanted, it created so many robots. First of all, it attracted Tony and others to the city to destroy them all. The ultimate goal was to get Vision's body to make it stronger. Because, although its current body is made of good materials, it is still far inferior to Vision's body made of vibranium. It is too weak and will be destroyed by Tony and others if it is not careful. This has happened before. It was killed by Tony and others once before. If its consciousness could not be transferred to other robots, it would have died long ago, right? In order to avoid such a situation from happening again, Ultron hid from the beginning of the battle and secretly commanded the robots to attack Tony and others. And this is also the reason why Yejuju asked Red Queen to look for countless places but still couldn't find Ultron. At this time, the people here were almost evacuated. Captain Me, Natasha, Barton, Yejuju's mechanical pets, and Wanda's brothers and sisters all gathered at the center. In the dark, Ultron was also gathering all the robots to launch the final attack. Because everything was ready, just waiting for the robots to attack the building and activate the detonation switch, the city could be sent to high control, and the shock wave generated by the fall could raise hundreds of kilometers to the ground. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 478. Just when all the superheroes gathered together, Ultron also launched an attack. In the streets and alleys, countless robots swarmed towards the few people. Seeing so many robots rushing over, Captain Me's expression became extremely serious. He glanced at everyone present and said, "Guys, it seems that the damn robot was playing with us before, and now it's time to test us. There are many enemies, but we can't retreat. This city needs us, and I'm with you. Fight." As soon as the voice fell, the robot army had already rushed into the building densely, desperately rushing towards the detonator guarded by everyone in the middle. Captain Me gave a take action order, and everyone started to move, scattered around the detonator, each facing at least 10 or dozens of robots besieging. Among them, only Yejuju, Hulk and Wanda's brother and sister fought calmly, and the other directions were not so optimistic. Needless to say, Yejuju has the magic weapon, the Skydodge shuttle, and the 23 blades can protect him from the front and even the left and right sides. Compared with Yejuju, Hulk is not as good, but not much worse. Compared with Yejuju, who seems to be cool and calm, Hulk is more violent. Hulk's fighting style can be said to be the simplest and most brutal. He either flattens the robot that rushes to the front with a fist, or grabs the robot's hands and feet and uses them as hammers to hit the robot, often sweeping several robots at a time. This killing effect is comparable to the first person after Yejuju. Wanda's brother and sister are not weak either. Because the brother and sister have lived and fought together for a long time, they cooperate very well. Wanda's brother Pietro wanders around the periphery, using the impact force generated by high speed to knock the robots out one by one. Wanda is responsible for checking for gaps and filling them. The robots that Pietro missed are either swept away or squeezed into discus with chaos magic. As for the others, Vision was better, suspended in the air. If the robots didn't jump up, they could hardly touch Vision. But Vision was not feeling well either, mainly because of his excessive energy consumption. After such a long battle, he only occasionally shot an energy beam from his forehead to attack the robots. The rest of the time, he basically relied on his fists to deal with the robots that jumped into the air. Captain Me and Natasha Barton were in charge of the side. With Captain Me holding the shield in front, the two of them were better. But the two were also very tired. There were too many robots. After such a high-intensity battle, even if one of them had been injected with drugs and his physical fitness had long surpassed that of ordinary people, and the other was also the best among ordinary people, it was impossible for them to fight for a long time like Captain America or Yejuju. Tony and Vision stood back to back, guarding above the crowd. Even if there were any missed ones, Yejuju would help kill them with a blade. And on the periphery, Yejuju's mechanical pets blocked most of the robots and were fighting fiercely. Fortunately, Yejuju upgraded almost all of them in the Devouring Star world, otherwise. In a battle like this, Yejuju could not guarantee that his mechanical pets would not be torn into pieces by these crazy robots. Even so, more and more robots rushed here, and seeing such a scene, Yejuju could not help but worry. There were several times when if Yejuju had not been distracted to take care of it, the detonator would have been touched and detonated by the robots that rushed in desperately. It was at this time that the mechanical flies released by Yejuju finally worked. Just when Yejuju was getting impatient, the voice of the Red Queen finally sounded in Yejuju's mind. "Sir, I found the very special robot you said. It was hiding in the underground space. No wonder I couldn't find it after searching all the places on the ground." Hearing this, Yejuju couldn't help but feel a little annoyed that he didn't think of it earlier. While feeling annoyed, Yejuju also knew that only by killing Ultron could the crisis here be truly resolved, so during the battle, Yejuju said to everyone, "I have found the place where Ultron is hiding, you stay here, I will kill it. I will leave my mechanical creatures here to help you, you must hold on until I kill Ultron." Without waiting for everyone's reaction, Yejuju conjured up two swords in his hand, with 23 blades spinning and flying around him, and rushed into the oncoming robots. Everyone saw that Yejuju's figure was as fast as a shadow, and it was not clear. They only saw that where the shadow passed, there were robots without heads or with black smoke on their heads, and they fell to the ground with a clang. But they were the robots killed by Yejuju with his sword and the blade of the sky-drifting shuttle. As he moved forward, they were all killed cleanly by Yejuju. Seeing this scene, everyone's scalp tingled. Even Natasha and Barton, who were the best at fighting and killing, were terrified. This fighting power was really too terrifying. It seemed that Yejuju had not used his full strength when he was defending with everyone before. Yejuju's speed was so fast. Except for Pietro, no one else could be as fast as Yejuju, not even Tony in the Iron Man suit. But no matter how fast the two were, could they have such a fight? Definitely not. Especially Pietro, in addition to his speed, his fighting power was not even as good as Tony's. It took only a dozen seconds for Yejuju to disappear in front of everyone. Everyone had to put away their shock and continue to block the robots that were still swarming in. Following the instructions of the Red Queen, Yejuju came to an abandoned mine. Looking at the dark passage in front of him, Yejuju secretly admired Ultron for being cautious enough to hide here. As Yejuju went deeper, a robot discovered the invasion and immediately attacked Yejuju. Unfortunately, the combat effectiveness of these robots was far inferior to that of Yejuju. Yejuju didn't even use his sword. 23 blades flew and killed the few robots. Naturally, Ultron knew about Yejuju's arrival immediately. While wondering how Yejuju found him, Ultron didn't dare to come out to fight Yejuju, so he had to send his robots to try to stop Yejuju from entering. As for why Ultron didn't dare to fight Yejuju, don't forget that he is a robot, and he can see Yejiju's terrifying fighting power through the images sent back by his robots during the battle. At least, Ultron knew that he was no match for Yejiju. At this time, the smart Ultron began to leave a backup plan for himself, sending several robots away from Sokovia, waiting for the time to transfer his consciousness to other robots if he was killed by Yejiju. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 479. What it didn't know was that Yejiju, who had expected Ultron to do this, had the entire city's exit under Red Queen's surveillance. As soon as its clone robot left the city, several mechanical dogs of Yejiju chased after it. Although the strength of these mechanical dogs sent out was not very good, the eldest brother didn't say the second brother, and the individual combat power of the robot was also not very good. One mechanical dog was enough to deal with one robot. In the passage, Yejiju had already entered the pit where Ultron was. Looking at Ultron surrounded by dozens of robots in front of him, to be honest, Yejiju thought Ultron's shape was still good. Although it looked like those robots, with a metal structure all over the body, the muscle contour was well done, very much like a muscular man. When Ultron saw Yejiju's arrival, he felt like a dog. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Seeing Yejiju stepping in step by step, and also receiving the news that the clone he sent out had been killed, Ultron asked unwillingly. "Human, how did you know I was here? Did you kill the robot I sent out?" Shrugging, Yejiju said disdainfully. "I just know you are here, and I killed the robot you sent out, and you too. Stop talking nonsense, you can go to hell." After that, Yejiju's Tai Chi Ice and Fire Dual Heavens domain was used on this group of robots for the first time. When Ultron was about to order the robot protecting him to kill Yejiju, he saw a dazzling white and red light burst out from Yejiju's body. Then a circle of light with a radius of 30 meters enveloped all the robots, including it. The aperture looked very strange. The front half was fiery red with a white dot in the middle, and the back half was white with a red dot in the middle. The two colors of light were like two fish tightly together, and Yejiju stood in the middle of the two colors. Before it could understand what it was, the scorching heat suddenly made the robot standing in the front turn red all over, just in the blink of an eye. Ultron clearly saw that the robots in the front row, who couldn't even resist, quickly melted into a pool of molten steel from their feet and flowed to the ground. Seeing this scene, Ultron was immediately terrified, and without hesitation, he transferred his consciousness to one of the robots fighting outside, and turned around again without hesitation and hid in a building. It was completely scared. Although its combat effectiveness was not bad, and it could even fight with Iron Man in a battle suit, it did not mean it can fight against this mysterious magic power, because its body is not like Vision's. Its body made of vibranium cannot withstand such high temperature. At this moment, Ultron has never been so eager to get Vision's body. With it, it no longer needs to be afraid of Yejiju's fire magic. That's right, Ultron regarded Yejiju's ice and fire domain as a kind of magic. In its cognition, only magic can have such power. At the moment when Ultron escaped, although Yejiju was exerting the power of the domain, he was always paying attention to Ultron. When the red light in this guy's eyes suddenly went out, and then lit up again, but without the agility and humanity of Ultron, it was known that this guy had run away when he saw that the situation was not right. Cursing Ultron for being cunning and cowardly, Yejiju used the power of the domain and the blade of the Sky Shuttle. All the robots here were solved in a dozen seconds, and then they flew out of the tunnel immediately, letting Red Queen continue to control the mechanical fly and look for Ultron's traces. If he didn't kill it, Yejiju would always feel uneasy. When Yejiju emerged from the tunnel, the battle outside was still very intense. Fortunately, Yejiju's mechanical pet was outside, helping Team Me a lot and sharing most of the pressure. Otherwise, the detonator would have been triggered and detonated by the robots that were madly attacking here, just like in the movie, sending the entire Sokovia to the sky. Yejiju's purpose of coming out was very clear, that is, to kill all the robots here and not give Ultron even a chance to escape. It felt great to attack from behind the robot. Yejiju suspended the sky shuttle beside him and flew at a low altitude in his armor. 23 blades were like the ruthless sickle of the god of death, piercing the heads of all the robots he saw along the way and killing them. Even if it was only the upper body of the robot that was still moving, Yejiju would not let it go, and would never give Ultron a chance to take advantage of it. In his mind, Red Queen was never idle, controlling the mechanical fly to look for Ultron's figure. Ultron is very smart, and no one knows where he is hiding. Anyway, after more than 10 minutes, Yejiju still can't find Ultron's trace. Ultron is hiding in a building at this time, watching Yejiju killing people in the city with cold eyes, and he is very depressed. Originally, the plan was well planned. If it were only Tony and others, it would be completely sure to send the city to the sky, kill all of them, and get Vision's body. But there was an accident like Yejiju, which made it useless whether it was the first move or the second move. The most annoying thing is that it can't beat Yejiju at all. What should I do? Fight, can't beat, run, can't run. It can only hide here in frustration, and it is not certain whether Yejiju can find it. It is really better to plan than to plan. Ultron had this idea at this time. What it did not notice was that there were countless small mechanical flies flying around in every corner of the city, and their target was this robot. In the battlefield, because more and more robots died and fewer robots fighting with them, Tony and others finally breathed a sigh of relief. With Yejiju, the speed of robots being eliminated was obviously accelerated. Half an hour later, all the robots that could be seen were eliminated by everyone. The whole city seemed to be quiet at this moment, and the heavy footsteps of robots charging could no longer be heard. When the Me team saw that no more robots rushed out, they sat down on the ground tiredly and gasped. But they did not dare to relax. They all sat around the detonator, guarding against the robots that were not dead suddenly rushing in, triggering the detonator, and sending the city into the sky. In that case, all their efforts will be in vain. The ones who look the most tired are Natasha, Wanda, and Pietro Barton, who are not wearing masks and other things. Each of them is covered with sweat. Obviously exhausted. But Yejiju did not rest, but simply flew to high altitude to monitor the exit of the entire city. There is no way, Red Queen has not found Ultron's clone yet. Also, because the system has not reminded Yejiju until now, the mission has been completed. Obviously Ultron is hiding in the corner of the city, and after he and others leave, he will come out to continue looking for opportunities to make trouble. In fact, Yejiju's caution is not excessive. Because the development of things has exceeded Yejiju's expectations. For example, Thanos has already launched an invasion war against the 9 realms in advance, and the first to bear the brunt is Asgard, the kingdom of God. Next will be the Earth, which is the most ordinary planet among the 9 realms, but has 4 Infinity Stones. And when Ultron escaped earlier, Yejiju's uneasiness was also justified. Just imagine that if Thanos invaded the Earth in advance, if Ultron was not dead, he would definitely collude with Thanos, because both of them are crazy and want to destroy. The difference is that one wants to destroy half of the population of the universe, and the other wants to destroy all mankind and try to establish his own mechanical civilization. At this time, Ultron looked at Yejiju flying in the air, and his heart was so depressed. The battle is obviously over, you all won, right? Why don't you leave, and fly in the air to monitor? What are you doing? Do they have to die before they stop? Originally, it thought that the plan failed, and at worst, humans would kill all the robots. As long as it is still alive, there will be as many robots as it wants. There is always a chance to start over, right? Next time, Ultron will definitely take Yejuju's terrifying factor into consideration and will never fail again. In fact, as long as Ultron does not show up and Yejuju is not there, it can naturally leave quietly afterwards. But because Yejuju has the system and the system task, he naturally knows that Ultron is not dead, so of course he has to continue looking. Tony rested for a while, looked up and saw Yejuju still floating in the sky. While wondering in his heart, he also stood up and flew up. Coming to Yejuju's side, Tony asked, "Yeah, isn't the battle over? Look, there is no active robot in the whole city, right?" Shaking his head, Yejuju continued to stare at the ground and said to Tony, "No, Tony. You killed so many robots, did you find Ultron among them?" "Ah. I didn't notice that, didn't it appear on the battlefield?" "Of course. Don't doubt Ultron's wisdom, it was defeated by you once. Before it is absolutely sure of defeating you, I don't think it will come out to participate in the battle in person." You mean, Ultron has not appeared from the beginning to the end of the battle, right? Then where is it? Oh, by the way, you left for a while before, didn't you go to find it? What happened? Don't mention it, Ultron is too cunning. Yejuju said depressedly, and then continued. I blocked it in the tunnel, but before I killed it, its consciousness was transferred to an ordinary robot. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 480. There is no way, the Red Queen still hasn't found Ultron's clone. It's also because the system hasn't prompted Yejuju until now that the task has been completed. Obviously Ultron is hiding in the corner of the city. After he and others leave, he will come out and continue to look for opportunities to cause madness and rain. In fact, Yejuju's previous uneasiness was not an exaggeration at all. Because writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow circled M. The development of things has gone beyond the plot that Yejuju is familiar with. For example, because of his intervention, Thanos has launched a war of aggression against the Nine Realms in advance, and the first one to bear the brunt is Asgard, the kingdom of gods. And when Thanos gets the Infinity Gauntlet, then there will be Earth, the most ordinary planet among the Nine Realms, but it has 4 Infinity Stones. When Ultron escaped earlier, Yejuju's uneasiness was justified. Just imagine, if Thanos invades the Earth in advance, and Ultron is not dead yet. They will definitely get together with Thanos, a madman, because both are madmen and want to destroy. The difference is that one wants to destroy half of the population of the universe. The other one wants to destroy all human beings on the Earth and establish his own mechanical civilization. At this time, Ultron looked at Yejuju flying in the air, feeling extremely depressed. The battle is obviously over, you all have won, right? Why don't you leave and fly into the air to monitor? What are you doing? Do they have to die before they give up? Originally, it thought that if the plan failed, the worst case scenario would be for humans to kill all the robots. As long as it lives, there will be as many robots as there are robots. There's always a chance to do it again, right? And next time, Ultron will definitely take the terrifying factor of Yejuju into consideration and will never fail again. In fact, as long as Ultron doesn't show its head and Yejuju is not around, it will naturally leave quietly afterwards. But just because there is Yejuju, the system is there, and the system mission is there, Yejuju naturally knows that Ultron is not dead, and of course he must continue to look for it. Tony rested for a moment, looked up and saw Yejuju still suspended in the sky. While feeling confused, he also got up and flew up. Coming to Yejuju's side, Tony asked, Yeah, isn't the battle over? Look, There isn't a single active robot in this whole city, right? Shaking his head, Yejuju continued to stare at the ground and said to Tony. No, Tony. You killed so many robots, did you find Ultron among them? Ah. I didn't notice this. Didn't it appear on the battlefield? Of course. Don't doubt Ultron's wisdom. It was defeated once by your joint efforts. I don't think it will come out to participate in the battle in person until it is absolutely sure of defeating you. Well. You mean? Ultron never showed up from the beginning to the end of the battle, right? So where is it? Oh. That's right. You left for a while, weren't you just looking for it? The result? Don't mention it, Ultron is too cunning. Yejuju said depressedly after hearing this, and then continued. I blocked it in the tunnel, but before I could kill it, its consciousness transferred to an ordinary robot. Escaped. Well. You mean? Ultron was so scared that you hid? Tony asked, feeling extremely depressed. There was no other way. How hard did it take for him and Team Me to deal with those robots? And what about Yejuju? After a battle, he was so relaxed and even scared Ultron into hiding. What kind of nonsense is this? Yejuju didn't notice the sourness in Tony's tone. He continued to stare at the various exits of the city with vigilance, and subconsciously agreed, yeah. At this moment, the Red Queen finally lived up to Yejuju's expectations. A mechanical fly discovered the hiding Ultron and immediately transmitted the picture to Yejuju. Without saying a word, Yejuju disappeared in front of Tony's eyes with a whoosh sound. This made Tony even more speechless. Because he found that Yejuju was faster than him. It was several times faster. With the speed of his current armor, he couldn't catch up. How fast Yejuju was, when he suddenly appeared in front of Ultron, Ultron was still confused and at a loss. Don't ask me why Yejuju can see surprise and bewilderment on a robot's face. In short, Ultron is not a simple robot, okay? Before Ultron could say his last words or even attack Yejuju with a weapon, Yejuju struck out with his domain power and the Sky Escape blade at the same time. 23 blades in an instant. He cut Ultron's robot head into pieces, and uneasy, melted Ultron's entire body into molten steel. Yejuju didn't give up until he heard the system prompts. Just when Yejuju received the system prompt that the mission was completed and put away the ice and fire domain, there was a swish sound behind him, and someone fell down. Yejuju looked back. Who was Tony if he wasn't following him? Fortunately, Yejuju turned off the power of the domain after hearing the system prompt, otherwise, wouldn't Tony be killed by Yejuju by mistake? Tony ignored Yejuju, but looked at the pool of molten steel on the ground that was still red and emitting white smoke. After swallowing hard, he stammered. It is Ultron. Ah. Who else could it be if not it? You. Tony was very uncomfortable with this sentence. He wanted to say, is this Ultron? The Ultron who beat up several superheroes. Was you able to solve it in just 1 minute? In fact, he didn't know that it only took Yejuju 1 second to solve Ultron. Ultron didn't even have a chance to fight back. Really? Yejuju's current combat power is simply too terrifying. Although Ultron is the absolute villain boss in Avengers 2, his actual combat power, it's still about the same as Iron Man, who hasn't invented the super powerful nano armor. With such combat power, Yejuju can really kill it in seconds. Kill it without negotiation. Fortunately, Tony didn't see the process of Yejuju killing Ultron in seconds. If he knew, I don't know if Tony would be autistic. Just think about it. Who is Tony? The youngest rich man. The richest bachelor. The smartest inventor. The most awesome Iron Man. But he suffered several losses at the hands of Ultron, and the key is that he couldn't beat him. But in the hands of Yejuju, He died so easily. This made Tony, who knew the truth. How dare he brag about being a W? Yejuju glanced at the system prompt again and saw that it clearly displayed. Congratulations to the host for completing the world plot mission, Age of Ultron. Stop Ultron from sending Sokovia to the sky, and eventually kill Ultron, and reward 50,000 experience points. Yejuju then let out a heavy breath and said to Tony. Tony, the matter here is resolved, I'm leaving first, I have something else to do, I'll come back to you. After that, Yejuju disappeared in front of Tony with a whoosh, leaving Tony alone to doubt his life. After a long time, Tony cursed shit in a low voice, and secretly swore in his heart. After returning, he will devote himself to the research of new armor, and must create an armor that flies faster than Yejuju. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 481. Yejuju glanced at the system prompt again and saw it clearly displayed. Congratulations to the host for completing the world plot mission, Age of Ultron. Prevent Ultron from sending Sokovia to the sky, and finally kill Ultron, and you will be rewarded with 50,000 experience points. Yejuju exhaled heavily and said to Tony. Tony's matter here has been resolved. I'm leaving first. I have something else to do and I'll come back to you. After saying that, Yejuju disappeared from Tony's eyes with another whoosh sound, leaving Tony alone to doubt his life. After a long time, Tony cursed shit in a low voice, and secretly swore. After returning home, he devoted himself to the research of new armors. He must create an armor that can fly faster than Yejuju. The reason why Yejuju left in such a hurry was naturally to go to Shield to find braised eggs and get the obelisk so that he could activate Sky's powers. When Yejuju came to S.H.I.E.L.D., he was stopped by the soldiers guarding the bridge. No matter what Yejuju said, the soldiers would not allow Yejuju to enter. There was no other way, Yejuju had no choice but to take out his phone and call Furui. When the call was connected, Furui felt an unspeakable reaction when he heard that Yejuju had arrived. He complained in his heart that Yejuju was too impatient, because he had already asked people to investigate the obelisk, and wanted to know what the obelisk was used for. But it's a pity. 69shux.com. There are so few people who know the secret of the obelisk. How could Fury know it in such a short time? To be honest, he really wanted not to hand over the obelisk to Yejuju, but he couldn't let Yejuju feel cold because of it. At this time, we cannot let Yejuju come in. After all, no one can say whether the Earth will encounter crises that even the Avengers can't handle in the future, and Yejuju's efforts will be needed. With Furyui's permission, the soldiers allowed Yejuju to cross the bridge. Outside the gate, Fury's hardcore subordinate Coulson was waiting for Yejuju with his hands on his lower abdomen and a smile on his face. Seeing Yejuju coming over, Coulson bent slightly and said to Yejuju. Yeah, the director asked me to pick you up. I will take you to Warehouse 084 to get what you want. Please follow me. After saying that, Coulson turned around and walked into the gate. Yejuju complained in his heart that Director Lu Dan was so petty that he didn't even see him in person when he came. However, he was also eager to get something and hurriedly followed him. Along the way, Coulson remained silent and didn't speak, which was very inconsistent with his usual talkative appearance. Yejuju didn't bother to ask what was wrong with Coulson. I kept thinking about where the Chris Temple was in the SHIELD series I watched in my previous life. Isn't the obelisk about to be obtained? Yejuju wants to take Sky to the temple as soon as possible to activate her powers so that she can become an important helper for him to deal with Thanos. 69shux.com. After some strict security measures, the two entered the 084 warehouse one after another. Coulson rummaged through the catalog and took Yejuju straight to the place where the obelisk was stored. After opening the box and seeing the obelisk shining with strange light inside, Coulson subconsciously reached out to touch it, but Yejuju grabbed him and said, "You don't want to kill Coulson. This thing is not something that anyone can touch directly. If you don't have blood, it will be carbonized into slag by him." As he spoke, Yejuju closed the lid of the box again, lifted the handle of the box and said to Coulson, "You should be the one Fury arranged to go with us, right?" Coulson: "Ah, oh, yes, it's me. When do we set off?" Obviously, Coulson hadn't recovered yet, and he subconsciously answered after hearing this, "I'll go back and take Sky with me first. I'll let you know when everything is ready." "Okay, that's it, I'm going back first." After speaking, Yejuju hurriedly walked out of the 084 warehouse with the box in hand without waiting for Coulson to answer. Seeing Yejuju leaving so simply, Coulson rubbed his nose and muttered something in a voice that only he could hear, and then went to Director Fury's office to report to Fury. Yejuju returned home happily. Sky was sitting cross-legged on the sofa boredly watching TV. However, Yejuju noticed that although her eyes were looking at the TV, her expression was empty, and she was obviously not there. Watch TV. Seeing Sky like this, to be honest, Yejuju felt a little pity in his heart for no reason. Think about it, Sky is very happy in the play, and later she is tricked by her father who suddenly appears and has superpowers, becoming a super powerful superhero. But now Sky, who was brought by him but had nothing to do all day long, lost her original liveliness and cheerfulness, which she shouldn't even think about. Fortunately, Yejuju has already obtained the obelisk, which allows Sky to surpass her father and awaken her powers in advance and become a superhero beside her. Thinking of this, Yejuju walked to Sky and sat down heavily. Such a big movement naturally woke up Sky, who was in a daze. After turning around and seeing it was Yejuju with a cry of "Ah!" he suddenly became energetic and asked excitedly, "You're back, yeah? How about it? Is the opponent strong this time? Tell me about your fighting process, please." Seeing that Sky was so concerned about his going out, Yejuju knew that Sky wanted passion in her heart, so she decided to tell her about the obelisk and let her choose whether to become a superhero. Thinking of this, Yejuju looked at Sky seriously and said, "Sky, let's not talk about those things first, let's talk about your things now." "Ah? My things? What about me?" Sky was made uncomfortable by Yejuju's serious expression, and asked subconsciously. After asking, she reacted and immediately misunderstood whether Yejuju wanted to say something to her. She couldn't help but think a little excitedly. Is he going to confess to me? What should I do? Should I agree? Or should I agree? Without waiting for Sky to continue thinking about it, Yejuju continued. From the information I have investigated, you were not an orphan at the beginning. First of all, your mother is likely a superpower transformed by the Kree obelisk, and your father was originally a doctor. And your real name should be Daisy. Your mother is Chinese. Your father worked in China in his early years. Your mother worked in your father's clinic. Later, they fled to Europe together to avoid the war. Your father's name is Calvin Zabo. He used drugs to make himself very strong, but his personality became violent. Sky, don't look at me like this. I said this not to expose your background, and I will not look down on you for it.